Love can make you feel like you're on top of the world. It can boost your confidence, your self-esteem. It can make you feel invincible, especially if no one has ever made you feel this way before. But when that feeling is ripped away, you can become lonely, frustrated. You can sense yourself drifting toward darkness and desperation, where you find yourself willing to do the unthinkable to recapture that loving feeling. April 4th, 2009, 11 a.m. It's a peaceful morning in Mableton, Georgia, a small community 20 minutes west of downtown Atlanta.
Mableton is kind of a hidden gem. It is a tight-knit community. People that live there are great, hardworking folks who just want to raise their families in peace.
On quiet Villa Avenue, 33-year-old Neil Evans is being dropped off at his friend's small rental home.
Neil had been to a party at that house the night before.
He had gone home and he had left his vehicle at the house on Villa Avenue.
As Neil walks up the driveway, he notices something amiss in the grass just beyond the back patio.
In the backyard of this home, he made the gruesome discovery. He saw two bodies in the backyard.
The bodies are those of Neil's two friends, 32-year-old Will Derlott and 30-year-old Jerry J.P. Bell, both the victims of an apparent homicide.
He sees JP and Will covered in a pool of blood, and of course, blood around the entire crime scene. He's freaked out.
Neil has no idea who could have killed his friends.
In a panic, Neil calls police. Within minutes, officers arrive on the scene. They immediately make their way to the backyard.
What they discovered was pretty terrifying.
We had two dead bodies, very brutal crime scene.
Who murdered these two men in their own backyard? And why? Police will soon learn of one woman's desperate attempt to reunite with the man of her dreams, and how her desperate search for true love had ended in violence. "27-year-old Atlanta native Erica Stokes was a devoted mom to her 3 young boys.
She was a single mom, and she worked at a fast food restaurant.
She was a good mom. She cared for her children.
After multiple failed relationships, Erica's self-esteem took a nosedive. She felt no one would love her, and she longed for a partner, someone who would shower her with affection and help raise her boys.
Erica wanted her boys to grow with a father figure in the home, someone that they could look up to.
However, between work and parenting, Erica had trouble meeting the kind of man she was looking for, a man that would treat her with kindness and respect. She began to feel self-conscious and worried that she'd never find her Mr. Right.
Erica didn't feel physically attractive. She definitely had a lack of self-confidence and didn't feel sexy.
Despite her lack of self-confidence, Erica's loneliness came to a sudden end in the spring of 2008 when she met 28-year-old Charles Ford online.
Erica was immediately attracted to Charles.
To Erica's delight, Charles was drawn to her too. And what started as a casual online flirtation soon developed into a full-blown relationship.
A woman who hasn't felt good about herself, and if someone shows interest in them, they're gonna open up because this person has made them feel sexy.
Within a matter of months, Erica and Charles were inseparable.
Charles tells her how beautiful she is, what a good person she is. He paid attention to her.
For the first time in a long time, Erica felt something powerful. She felt wanted.
Feeling wanted takes a woman to a whole nother level. It boosts their confidence, their self-esteem.
Charles could certainly make her feel as if I really am worthy.
He awakened her desires, he fulfilled her passions, and she was able to open up and give him all of her.
Charles had a bit of a checkered past, but that was overshadowed by the kindness he showed to both Erica and her children.
Charles, he's got an arrest record.
Erica fell for him even though he had a past. She did not care. She just really wanted that family structure, and Charles was the person to step up and provide that.
But little did Erica know, Charles's criminal past wasn't completely behind him.
He was known for smuggling drugs between Colorado and Georgia on a regular basis, so he split his time between the two states.
On September 9, 2008, in a small Denver neighborhood, Charles's criminal dealings came to a head.
Charles had gotten in a fight with a man and shot him 3 times in cold blood.
Charles immediately fled the scene, but was arrested not long after. With her man awaiting trial in Colorado, Erica's world collapsed.
Erica is devastated, not knowing when or if ever she would see him again.
Despite the violent nature of Charles's alleged crime, Erica refused to give up on him.
It didn't matter to Erica because she needed to feel wanted. It comes from that fear that they can never find someone else again to love them.
When people fall in love, it can feel like a drug rush, and not having that can also feel like a withdrawal.
Erica's desire to reunite with Charles would soon lead her down a dark and dangerous path. One where she would stop at nothing in order to have him back in her arms forever. Investigators in Mableton, Georgia, have just arrived to the scene of a double homicide, where 2 young men have been brutally gunned down.
The fact that we found them both outside the home, unarmed, was very curious to everybody. There was no self-defense or any kind of gun battle. It was strictly an execution.
Near the bodies, police discover several shell casings from 2 separate weapons.
One consistent with coming from an assault-type rifle, and then there was some .40 caliber shell casings as well that would have been fired from a handgun.
When you have multiple casings, that also tells you normally that there are multiple people that are there firing those weapons.
As officers continue to search the area, they find another critical piece of evidence in the front yard.
An officer finds it's an SKS assault rifle.
There it sits, almost with a flag on it, saying, "Please pick me up, investigate me."
The gun is the same caliber as some of the shell casings found near the victims.
Police were positive it was one of the weapons used in the shooting.
But why leave a murder weapon lying in plain sight? Investigators have a theory.
It indicates that these people are not professionals. It indicates that they panicked.
As investigators dig further into the case, they'll uncover a sinister plot orchestrated all in the name of love.
She was willing to do whatever it takes. What is it that I can do to be able to help my man?
Georgia native Erica Stokes was a good mother, but never lucky in love. until she found the man of her dreams in 29-year-old Charles Ford.
She thought, could he really be the one?
He gave her love, and she reciprocated by giving him her everything.
But in the fall of 2008, Erica's storybook romance is threatened. When Charles is arrested for murder 1,000 miles away in Colorado.
Erica experienced some withdrawals from Charles once he was locked up.
She's desperate and doesn't know what to do.
Erica vows she'll find a way to get Charles back home. But just how far is she willing to go in the name of love? April 4th, 2009, 12 p.m. Georgia police have been called to the scene of a gruesome double homicide. Two men, J.P. Bell and Will Durlot, have been gunned down in their own backyard.
In total, there were about 23 bullet strikes that crime scene investigators were able to document.
He had multiple shell casings. One was consistent being shot out of a rifle, and one was more than likely to have been fired out of a handgun.
As CSIs continue processing the scene, detectives head back to the station to speak with Neil Evans, the friend of JP and Will's who discovered the bodies.
He was genuinely grieving for the loss of his friend.
Neil Evans was a lifelong friend of Mr. Durlot's and also a friend of Mr. Bell.
Will and JP, they like to socialize, like to have people over.
They're well liked. We've said we're going to do everything we can to find their killers.
Investigators ask Neil about the three friends' activities the evening prior to the murders.
Mr. Evans was quite candid with us from the outset that there had been a party the night before.
It kind of turned this home into a makeshift nightclub of sorts. There were actually signs on the house talking about the cost of admission and how much drinks would cost.
This was a cash cow, essentially, for Will and JP.
Neil says he left when the party died down, which was around 3 a.m.
Neil was with another female. They wanted to leave and do their own thing.
When Mr. Evans left, he said that there were only 4 people in the house, the 2 victims and the 2 females.
One of those individuals, who was a female, he actually knew. Neil gave the name of Erica Stokes to investigators.
After wrapping up their interview with Neil, investigators reach out to Erica Stokes.
We got a phone number from Miss Stokes, and she agreed to meet with us.
As investigators wait for Erica to arrive at the station, they look into her background and learn of her relationship with Charles Ford.
Her boyfriend, who was incarcerated in Denver, Colorado for a murder and was awaiting trial.
Police are eager to speak with Erica to see what she knows, to see if she can fill in any gaps.
That afternoon, investigators sit down with Erica Stokes.
She did admit to us she had been at the house.
Erica says that she knows JP and Will. They're not close friends, but she's known them for a number of years.
Erica tells detectives that JP had been interested in her friend, Kendra Moore.
JP, he asked her, "Can you bring her to the party?"
According to Erica, her and Kendra arrived around 2 a.m. and they stayed until about 4 a.m.
They're there, they're enjoying themselves. Kendra is being flirty with JP.
That's when Erica drops a bombshell.
Erica actually shared that her and Kendra were indeed there when JP and Will were shot.
Erica says after all the other partygoers left, the 4 of them stepped outside to get some fresh air. A few minutes later, all hell broke loose.
That's when the shots ring out.
Pandemonium ensues. Fearing for their lives, Erica and Kendra flee.
But when detectives press Erica for the identities of the shooters, she'll make another shocking claim. One that suggests Erica's own life may also be in danger.
He said, if you say anything, we're going to kill you.
April 4th, 2009. Investigators are questioning 27-year-old mother of three, Erica Stokes, about the murders of J.P. Bell and Will Durlot, two roommates who were killed outside their Mableton, Georgia home less than 24 hours earlier.
Erica has told investigators she was there at the time of the shooting.
When detectives ask Erica if she can identify the gunman, she makes a shocking admission.
Erica says one of the shooters is actually her boyfriend's brother, Diego Bailey. Erica claimed that without a doubt, Diego was one of the men responsible in the shooting.
Detectives press her for more information on her claim. According to Erica, a few hours before the party, she bumped into Diego in the parking lot of a grocery store.
Diego approached her with another guy whose name she didn't know.
Erica describes the other male that's with Diego. He's tall, thin, dark complected.
Diego told Erica the men needed money, and they were looking for an easy target.
Diego always needed money, but this time it seemed more heightened. It was more desperate.
More importantly, they had weapons. They were armed with guns.
Erica told the men she didn't know anyone with that kind of cash, and that was it. She had no clue that she'd see the two men again, under far more terrifying circumstances.
She advised that they'd attempted to rob the two victims and that had gone bad.
Erica then informs investigators that after fleeing for her life, she receives a call from Diego.
The two males basically started threatening her, saying, if you say anything, we're going to kill you. She was terrified.
As police put out an APB for Diego Bailey, investigators speak with Erica's friend, Kendra Moore.
She does indeed verify Erica's story. Kendra told investigators she was scared too.
Kendra claims she and Erica fled in a panic. They knew they needed to go to the police, but after being threatened by Diego, they decided to keep quiet.
Erica and Kendra thought that they may become loose ends and thought that their lives were in danger.
After speaking with both women, detectives shift their focus to the alleged shooters.
We didn't know who the second suspect was. We had no name or nickname or anything at that point.
For the next 48 hours, police double their efforts to find Diego Bailey.
We basically got into his life, who he's with, who he talks to, who he dates.
They end up finding him down in Palmetto, Georgia at some lover's home, a girlfriend.
He was taken into custody with no resistance and no incident.
At the outset of the interview, detectives asked Diego Bailey point blank if he's responsible for the murders of J.P. Bell and Will Durlot. Diego is unexpectedly forthcoming.
Diego admits that they wanted to rob these people. They wanted their money.
They targeted JP and Will because it would be an easy lick based on what was going on there.
They would host these parties, and there was also an admissions fee. So there was a good amount of money in the house.
Diego tells investigators he has a partner that's going to help with this robbery, and he gives the name Shondell.
Diego had learned that Shondell was quite the gunman and felt this would be the person that I would need to pull this robbery off.
Diego explains that the plan was to hide in the backyard, then rob Will and JP at gunpoint when the time was right. But Diego claims that he ended up getting cold feet.
He said, hey, I didn't want to go through with the plan after all. I got scared, so I got back in the car. I left Shondell there on his own. Diego says while he was in the car, he started hearing the gunshots. Diego says after he heard the shots, Shondell runs back to the car, but he's empty-handed. He had no money, so no robbery actually occurred.
Diego admits right after the murder, they fled the scene in the car.
Shondell panics and decides to throw the assault rifle out the window.
Detectives are skeptical of Diego's story. Erica and Kendra reported 2 shooters from that night, not 1.
The fact that we have 2 sets of shell casings in the backyard that were clearly fired from 2 different firearms, what he was telling detectives just didn't make sense. It seemed evident he was not being truthful.
But what Diego says next will add an entirely new layer to the investigation and reveal the extraordinary lengths one woman was willing to go to for her man.
Diego admits that this robbery had been planned for months, and the mastermind wasn't him. It wasn't Shondell.
She was willing to do whatever it took in order to accomplish the goal.
Erica was madly in love with Charles. I mean, Erica grew up with low self-esteem, and along comes Charles, who shows her all this attention, all this affection. For her, that was true love. This was the man of her dreams.
Police are questioning 21-year-old Diego Bailey for his alleged role in the robbery-turned-homicide of J.P. Bell and Wilder Lott. Diego admits he helped plan the robbery, but claims he ended up getting cold feet.
He said Shondell is the one that actually shot Will and JP.
Detectives are skeptical of Diego's story, but when they press him for more info, he drops a bombshell.
He told the police up front that Erica was the mastermind or the person that had set up this entire scheme.
Erica Stokes, she dated Charles Kendall Ford, who is Diego Bailey's older brother. They had a relationship. They very much loved each other.
This robbery was planned to aid his brother Charles, who was in jail in Colorado on a murder charge.
Diego says Erica wanted Charles back and was beyond devastated when he was locked up.
She experienced depression, grief.
She couldn't come up with this money to get her man out of jail.
Erica told Diego she couldn't go on without Charles in her life.
We call that a love addiction. You have to be with them no matter what, whatever it takes, even if it means doing harm to someone else.
Diego says Erica came to him with the robbery plan.
Diego said that money would be used to pay the high-priced attorney and for bail money for his brother.
Erica knew that the only way she could get this much money this quickly is to do something dirty and grimy.
Diego recruited Shondell, his friend, in order to do this robbery.
Erica's love of Charles was the primary motive for why this scheme was even hatched in the first place.
Armed with Diego's statement, Police locate Shondell Ford Bradley and bring him in for questioning. He admits to playing a small role in the robbery, but strongly denies killing anyone.
He did say, you know, I wasn't even present at the shooting. I was in the car. Diego's the one that did the shooting.
Completely opposite of what Diego told the police.
I don't know which one's telling the truth or somewhere in the middle is the truth, but they both had different interpretations.
Shondell does agree with Diego on one major aspect of the crime.
Shondell put everything as far as the planning and the operation and the logistics on Erica.
Police still aren't sure who pulled the trigger, but they feel confident Erica Stokes holds the key to solving the case.
The police didn't have enough evidence to actually have Erica Stokes arrested.
Detectives are hoping phone calls between Erica and her incarcerated boyfriend, Charles, will shed more light on her involvement.
Erica kept in constant contact with Charles while he was incarcerated.
They talked almost every day, sometimes multiple times during the day.
When you're an inmate in jail, every time you call somebody, the jail records those calls.
Working with authorities in Colorado, investigators are able to obtain more than 18 hours of recorded phone conversations between Erica and Charles.
I do love you and I miss you and all of the above. I love you too, miss you.
She even said in a phone call she couldn't sleep without him. She was willing to do whatever she could to get her man back by her side.
And it seems Erica's man was equally determined to get back to her.
Whatever the you gotta do, we're gonna have to do it.
But bailing Charles out would be easier said than done.
She couldn't come up with this money to bail him out and to pay for a high-powered attorney.
She indicates, I have this job, but I'm not making enough money to be able to really help.
Like I said, we're out here trying. I'm trying to call these lawyers, but, you know, talking to your family, trying to get that much money. I mean, it's a learning experience for both of us. This is what makes it stronger, though, between us, I think.
One call in particular is especially damning.
She actually talks about the robbery, saying, we already got it all mapped out. She also says Charles' brother, Diego, is going to assist in it.
Your brother called today talking about, you know, getting money. He was like, we're going to get that. I'm going to come talk to you face to face. I'm going to get my brother out of there.
The recordings are critical evidence against Erica. But it's her contact with her boyfriend's brother, Diego, that seals the deal.
Investigators get Erica's cell phone records, and it reveals these text messages going on right around the time of the murder.
They see Diego and Erica texting back and forth over 100 times.
Those text messages basically revealed a step-by-step of everything that was going on that evening.
Erica's in the home talking about what she sees.
She's telling them how much money's in there, what's going on. More importantly, one text in particular says, get ready, as in, get ready to make your move.
Now investigators have proof beyond a doubt that Erica conspired to rob and ultimately kill the victims.
This was a stone cold, straight up home invasion planned robbery and 2 people were murdered.
On April 16, 2009, Erica Stokes is arrested at her home and charged with 2 counts of felony murder and aggravated assault. Detectives believe Diego Bailey, Shondell Ford Bradley, and Erica are all equally responsible for the murders. But there's still a question about the involvement of Erica's friend, Kendra.
They're not sure if Kendra knew about the robbery plot or if Erica was just using her to get into the house without her knowledge.
With her back against the wall, Erica agrees to speak with investigators one final time. Will she tell them the truth?
We just took their statement at face value, but just kind of in the back of our head, we got the feeling that I don't really think they're telling us everything.
April 16th, 2009. Police in Georgia have just arrested single mother Erica Stokes, the suspected mastermind behind a robbery gone bad that left 2 young men dead from a hail of gunfire. With her life and the future of her 3 young sons on the line, the 27-year-old agrees to speak with detectives one final time.
Erica saw the writing on the wall. She just knew the evidence was too strong against her.
She says, in exchange for my testimony, will you agree not to give me the death penalty?
Investigators tell Erica they can discuss a deal after she tells them exactly what happened.
She begins to tell her story.
She admits that it was her that came up with the idea. She'd been planning it for over a month.
Erica targeted JP and Will because she thought that it would be an easy lick.
She enlisted the help of Diego because he always had guns, so she knew he would be the muscle.
Diego then brought in his buddy, Shondell.
According to Erica, the plan was simple enough.
She was aware of Will and JP having these house parties. She knew that there was lots of cash that was going to be passing through their hands, and devised a plan that they would go to the house party and they would distract the 2. And Diego, along with Shondell, they would come and they would rob them of the cash.
Erica knew that JP fancied Kendra. So let's use Kendra as a ploy to get into this house party.
Erica says when they arrived at the house, JP let the women into the party, just as Erica had planned.
Kendra didn't know anything as far as what was supposed to happen that night.
While the girls were inside, Diego and Shondell set up in the backyard.
They're outside, behind the house, in position, waiting for their word.
Erica admitted that she was actually texting Diego, providing intel about how much money was there, who was located where, and what time to actually strike.
By 4 a.m., Erica and Kendra were the only guests left at the party. Erica texted Diego that she was going to lure Will and JP to the back patio, where Diego and Shondell could hold them up at gunpoint. Erica says that's where her plan took an unexpected detour.
Gunfire erupts and she gets scared and they take off running. She was adamant that this was supposed to be a straight up just robbery, nobody gets hurt, that killing or shooting was not supposed to be a part of what happened. And everyone went and got money, everybody just panicked and fled the scene. Will and JP are dead, and it's just for nothing, and that's just a shame. Their families are without them for absolutely nothing.
Erica says she has no idea why Diego and Shondell opened fire. She also stands by her previous statement that the men threatened her after the shooting. Detectives believe that Erica is telling the truth and seems remorseful of her actions.
But at that point, it's way too late. You've set a series of events in motion that led to the death of 2 people.
She committed this crime for Charles because she felt like he was the only person that really loved and cared for her.
Erica is charged with 2 counts of felony murder.
Diego and Shondell, they were also charged with 2 counts of felony murder.
As for Kendra Moore, she is charged with concealing a death after the fact.
Even though Kendra didn't know about the robbery plot, she didn't get help for the victims after the fact. She could have called the police, but she didn't.
As Erica's case makes its way through the courts, what price will she pay for her devotion to Charles?
Clearly, she was the person that was the catalyst for what happened, and the consequences were going to need to be grave for her.
Ladies, you don't ever want to put yourself in this situation where you are doing any and everything for someone's love. You have to know that you're worth it, that you deserve better. And then once you become better for who you are for yourself, you will want better and you will seek better out of someone else.
Guys,
With a mountain of evidence against her, Erica Stokes has confessed to her role in the attempted robbery turned double homicide that claimed the lives of J.P. Bell and Will Derlot.
She lays out the whole plot, and she admits that it was her that came up with the idea to spring her boyfriend from custody.
Erica explains that if the robbery yielded enough money, she could bail Charles out of jail and hire him a top-notch attorney.
Erica most definitely committed this crime for her man.
So not only did you have Erica wanting to help Charles get out of jail in Colorado, you had his brother, Diego, wanting to help. So they were the perfect match for this robbery.
With their trials looming, Erica pleads guilty, as does her friend, Kendra Moore, and hired gun, Shondell Ford Bradley.
Kendra Moore, Erica Stokes, and Shondell all agreed to plea deals in exchange for their testimony against Diego Bailey. Diego wanted to go to trial.
Diego said he didn't do it. He said Shondell is the one that actually shot Will and JP.
He insisted on holding fast to the statement that he had given to police, that he had abandoned his role.
On June 22, 2009, Diego Bailey's trial gets underway.
And at trial, all three, Shondell, Erica, and Kendra, testified against Diego about what had happened.
But Diego's defense attorney holds steady and maintains Diego's innocence.
During that trial, Diego gave the defense that he never went up to the house. He stayed in the car.
He says it was actually Shondell who wigged out and did the shooting.
Prosecutors refute the claims and cite the ballistic evidence.
At the crime scene, we had two different shell casings. One was consistent with being shot out of a rifle, and one was fired out of a handgun. Yes, it's possible to fire an assault rifle and a handgun at the same time, but not likely.
Furthermore, crime scene analysts had determined that the shell casings each came from completely different trajectories and distances.
That's pretty clear-cut evidence that you have two assailants that are firing weapons at the victims.
In November of 2010, a jury finds Diego Bailey guilty of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault, along with conspiracy to commit an armed robbery and possession of a firearm during a crime.
The judge hammered him and gave him 2 life sentences.
As for Shondell and Erica, they each pled guilty to 2 counts of murder, and each received life sentences.
Unlike Diego Bailey, though, their sentences were concurrent with each other. So someday they might see the light of day and might get some parole.
They just wanted at least a shot at not dying in prison. So I believe that's why they agreed to their plea deals, that maybe one day they have the possibility of getting out on parole.
Kendra Moore pleads guilty to 1 count of concealing a death.
So Kendra ended up getting probation and time served.
As for Charles Ford, the man who Erica's robbery plot was originally designed to help avoid a lengthy prison stay, he is currently serving 46 years for the murder he committed in Denver in 2008. Charles is never charged in connection to the murders of J.P. Bell and Will Derlot.
Erica was the mastermind. Charles was not charged as a party to the crime.
Regardless, Authorities feel like they finally have justice for the victim's family and friends.
It finally got to the resolution it needed to find that peace and that justice for Will and JP so that they can have a little bit of closure. Erica threw away her entire life. She threw away her kids, her chance at being a mom for them, all for a guy who was halfway across the country in jail for a murder. She herself now sits in prison for the rest of her life.
Her kids are now being raised by relatives, and sadly, they may never see their mother again outside of prison.
She did it out of love, out of trying to save someone, but in trying to save Charles, she damned herself.
Love can give you self-assurance and certainty. But when it's taken away in a flash, desperation can take hold. You try to save it, but can forget to save yourself.